Have you ever wondered why our brains, as absolutely amazing as they are just so incredibly good at playing tricks on us? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating glitch in human cognition, specifically looking at how our minds handle completely random information. We are essentially hardwired to love patterns. It's just how we're built. But sometimes that love gets us into some pretty serious trouble.
Okay, let's be honest for a second here. Have you ever picked your lottery numbers by looking at past winning numbers? Like maybe you told yourself, well, number 7 hasn't been drawn in weeks, so it's definitely due to win, right? If you've done that, hey, don't worry, you are definitely not alone. But actually, scratch that. You are kind of falling for a massive cognitive trap, and that is exactly what we are breaking down today.
So let's jump right into our first section, seeing patterns in noise. This is where we uncover the actual cognitive trick happening in our minds during our everyday decisions.
Okay, let's dive into this. The core of the issue here is what academics call the clustering illusion. By definition, this is incorrectly perceiving random events as having meaningful patterns. Think about that for just a second. The data is entirely random, it is literally just noise, but your brain insists, no, look closer, there's a story here, there's a rule. It's a cognitive bias that's actually closely related to pareidolia. Like when you see a face in a piece of burnt toast. It stems directly from our mind's insatiable, almost obsessive drive to search for regularities and correlations in everything we see.
And this brilliantly illustrates the heart of the problem. If we compare advantageous environments with random sequences, it makes perfect sense. In advantageous environments, where actual patterns exist, like dark clouds signaling an incoming storm, our brain's search for regularities actually helps us navigate the world. It's a survival superpower. But when we point that exact same pattern-matching superpower at truly random sequences, it misfires hard. This tendency leads directly to the erroneous detection of clusters. We essentially see shapes in the clouds that just aren't actually there.
Let's move to our next section, financial mirages and mistakes, and see how this builds into some very real and very costly impacts.
Check out this tragic 3-step procedure that investors fall into all the time, all based on phantom stock trends. Step 1. They perceive a trend in random gains or losses. The stock market can be highly chaotic, right? But an investor looks at a chart, sees a series of gains or a string of losses, and suddenly thinks they've spotted a hidden wave. Step 2. They start to actually believe in this continuing trend. They convince themselves the pattern is 100% real and predictable. And then Step 3, the trap snaps shut. They buy high, jumping in right when the imaginary trend is peaking, and then they sell low when the random noise inevitably dips. It is basically a perfect recipe for shrinking your savings.
The end result of all this? Acting on these non-existent trends leads directly to really poor investment choices that run completely contrary to sound financial principles. The clustering illusion literally costs people money. They're out there making massive financial decisions based on a mirage, betting their hard-earned savings on a pattern that the data never actually supported in the first place.
Now, transitioning to Section 3, let's look at the healthcare pattern trap. This is a high-stakes environment where even highly trained medical professionals are vulnerable.
Imagine a really bustling clinic. The clustering illusion can happen right here, specifically when interpreting patient symptoms and test results from completely unrelated cases. A doctor might see, say, 3 patients in one morning with a similar obscure symptom. Let's just say a specific kind of rash and a persistent cough. And their pattern-hungry brain immediately whispers that there has to be a connection.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how a doctor might artificially link those completely unrelated cases and suddenly believe they need to, quote, diagnose a rare disease. Because they perceived a cluster of symptoms, the brain leaps to this dramatic, overarching explanation. They completely miss the fact that these are just independent, random occurrences that just happened to cluster together in time.
So the crucial point is this. This illusion directly leads to unnecessary tests or medical treatments. A misdiagnosis driven by the clustering illusion has a very real, physical, and systemic cost. The patient undergoes procedures they just don't need, they experience a ton of stress, and the healthcare system bears the financial burden. And all of this happens simply because our brains are overly eager to find a pattern in random noise.
Bringing it back down to everyday life, let's look at Section 4, Everyday Illusions and Lotteries. Remember that lottery ticket we talked about at the very beginning?
Let's compare the illusion to the mathematical reality here. The illusion is believing certain numbers are due to hit based on past wins. You know, if a coin flips heads 5 times in a row, your brain is absolutely screaming that tails is due to come up next. It's a classic case of the gambler's fallacy. But the reality, every single draw, every single coin flip is completely independent and random. The lottery machine has no memory. It doesn't know what it drew last week. The clustering illusion just makes us fundamentally misunderstand how probability actually works.
So, to wrap this up and look at the big picture, here are the 3 massive clustering illusion traps we've covered in this explainer. Number 1, financial decisions, where we lose money chasing imagined stock trends. Number 2, healthcare, where doctors might accidentally connect unrelated medical cases, leading to unnecessary and stressful treatments. And number 3, everyday life, where we completely misunderstand lottery probability and think random events are somehow keeping score. In all 3 of these domains, our brain's desperate search for correlations is the underlying culprit. Finally, Section 5, questioning your reality. Let's take a moment to reflect on our own decision-making.
I want to leave you with a final, somewhat provocative question. What random sequence are you treating as a pattern today? Seriously, think about it. Is there a superstition you're holding on to? A financial move you're about to make? Or maybe a conclusion you've jumped to just because a few things happened close together? The next time you feel absolutely certain you've spotted a hidden pattern, take a step back. Ask yourself if it's real data or if it's just the clustering illusion playing tricks on your brilliantly capable, pattern-hungry mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.